Welcome to Abstract Illusions Radio with host Jennifer Hillman. The show explores and reveals the human potential through creativity. So enjoy the show to create a life you love.
Good evening, good day, wherever you are, dear people. This is Jennifer Hillman, and this is Abstract Illusions Radio, where we delve into the mysteries of creativity and the beauty and grace that is within it. Today, I am talking about a wonderful book that I am happy to be a part of, and it is Where Journeys Meet, the Voice of Women's Poetry. It is part of the Journey of the Heart poetry project that was started by Catherine Gush. She is unable to be with us, but today we do have one of the participants, Julia Prentice, who is going to talk about, we're going to talk about the power of poetry, creation within words, and the power that it has, not only for the person writing it, but for the person reading it. So Julia, thank you so much for being part of this and part of this project. I've read your poetry. It is amazing. You are a person that truly likes to help other people. And it gives you a thrill when you know you're making a difference. So your poetry does make a difference. And again, I thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's a pleasure. And I would love to just talk about the poetry project because it really inspired me to write more poetry, which is what I think is really important.
Yes, and this is the second volume of poems that they've put out, and
Correct.
it really combines artistic and creative talents um, of 80 women around the world, which is really uniting and being part of the oneness that we all are.
Yeah.
It really is a testament of inspiring bonds of sisterhood that women can create between themselves, even across the seas.
Hmm.
It is really a portrait of sacred spaces of women sharing each other's paths and the collaboration of love and passion, expression, and courage. It's just really a heartfelt journey. And the thing I really loved about this is the fact that all proceeds go to the Right Girl nonprofit organization that promotes creativity and self-expression to empower women and girls. That just is so needed these days.
Hmm.
And what was it about spiritual women poetry, that group that got you and Catherine, who is just an amazing woman to get this all together and inspire so many women to express themselves and be willing to share. So, what was it about Catherine or the group that really made you say, hey, this is a place I want to be a part of?
Well, one of the things for me, Jennifer, was that it was just such a loving, holding space that we had created, even in this virtual land where, we don't see each other's faces, but we can hear each other's voices through what we write and the conversations that we have and the support that we give each other. I mean, that to me was like golden. It was so wonderful. I couldn't believe that we could connect all of the people from all over the world in this one path, this one voice that's so powerful. That just really drew me in.
It really is. Catherine invited me to be part of the group after she'd read some of my poetry, and I was just honored to be asked to be part of it. I've read so many of the women that are on there. Um, there is so many. It's diverse, and yet women are really sharing their hearts and souls, their
Yeah,
process of healing. And that is really one of the powerful things about poetry, that it really is a moment captured.
very true. And in the book we talk about voicing, and we have 13 chapters, and we say we're voicing a lot of different things. We're voicing heartaches, we're voicing revelations. So there's a place for a voice for all of the different places that people are, all of the different paths that they're on in their life journey are there in the book. That's really cool.
And so, why don't you go ahead and read one of the poems that you have in the book?
Okay. um my poem is entitled Ghost Train. um I lived in a town for 6 months where there was a train that passed by uh, twice a day, and we could hear the whistle, and we never saw the train. So that's what inspired this poem. I hear the ghost train whistle echoing through the past. Its lonesome wail encompasses the heartfelt doom inside, leftovers from the shredded history known as my story, my undoing. See the indelible marks ride on, stains of guilt and shame, for things both done and undone, stains no bleach of regret removes, marks unforgiving and of unforgiveness. So the train thunders on, tracks are rusty from the tears fallen in the ashy dust of long ago. Does the engine ever cease? Cargo of loneliness and fear, anxiety and deepest sadness carried on forever. Car by car they pass, my sight blurred by the wind and burning remorse. Whence goes this train? It travels in my soul.
That's that's beautiful.
Thank you.
So, what was it that really got you started with poetry?
Hmm. Um, as a very, very shy child, I was had almost no voice as a child and as a woman. So And I think, when I was around 14 or 15, I had one teacher that said, "Oh, no, you write about clouds and ponies or some such thing. Write about what's really inside." And for the first time, I kind of got in touch with that, what was inside me. And some of it that came out was not all that pretty, but it was very releasing. And that kind of got me started. And for many years, I was writing to me. And I shared poetry with a few people, a few family members, but it was really for me. But that left me kind of empty. I'd read it and I'd say, okay, now what? So I think that part of the process of becoming a poet and included in this book was I feel impelled to share. And all of the stuff that I share, including stuff that isn't really all that pretty or happy, it isn't ponies and rainbows. Um, and I get such positive feedback from that. It really shocked me at first when some of the women would say, "Oh, I felt just like you did." I didn't know that people felt that way. I just didn't, it wasn't conscious of that. So that's kind of what got me rolling. And I've been writing poetry since I was 15 or 16.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Well, it's interesting with the group that Catherine started. She always asks for an introduction to the poem. What was the inspiration for that poem? Which I think is very telling of the situation that brought that healing. And I do think the expression and the writing of poetry really is lethargic in the sense that it's letting that energy out,
Mm,
even if it is for yourself, but sharing it. It's like it's letting people know you're not alone.
mm-hmm,
In which these days there's so many things that can isolate you, and yet so many things now are trying to invite you to share and be a part of a collaboration, a community. And it's so needed today, even if it's virtually through the computer and just through spirit.
yes, and that's making me smile. Um, yeah, I have a lot of baggage, and I think it was the baggage and dragging that along or seeing that pass by in my soul was was disheartening. So how could I see that as a place that I was going? And
Mm-hmm.
the train tracks just kind of said, okay, when you look down the train tracks, you don't know what's coming ahead. There might be a dark tunnel. You might go through that tunnel, but you're looking for that other light that's, up there in the future. And that's that's kind of where this poem came from, is seeing that baggage go past, but still seeing that light at the end.
Yes. And that's what it's like. We all express our process, where we've been, where we're going, what our hopes and dreams are, and really hoping to allow the voice of the true sense of us
Mm-hmm.
come through. Um, and it's interesting because I'm reading some of the reviews of the poem of the book, and there's one from the or Mountain Dreamer,
Mm-hmm.
and she writes, "When we are telling the truth of our life, we step into our power.
Mm-hmm.
And where journey meets, we are offered this soul food for the journey. Wisdom birthed from women daring to, and I'm getting tears in my eyes, daring to create poetry from the center of love and struggle, pain and healing. Their courage invites us to remember we are not alone and to tell the truth of our lives. And that's really it. It's
Yeah,
just we're here to have an experience. Here's my experience. And
right.
so many people say, I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And it is sometimes very painful, but a lot of times you hear the joy of the release within the words. And definitely for me, there is a power within the words that are felt. The emotion of your poem was felt. It isn't just words. There
Mm,
is like a symphony that surrounds it.
thank you.
And there is a saying that I read, and I can't remember who said it, but it was so telling that are that paintings are poetries that we see.
Mm, mm-hmm.
Poetry are paintings that we hear,
Mm, yes.
because both have their own texture and their own vision, their own way of expression, and yet I participated in something that an art museum had here where we went and wrote a poem based on what we felt from a painting.
Uh-huh.
And it was very interesting, the different poets that came in, and then they put the different poems next to, and as far as I know, they're still there, next to the painting.
Mm.
So
Oh,
people can see the different reflections and the different visions through the painting that you can see,
mm,
because it's all very much each person's mind and imagination goes to a different place, and yet it all goes back to center.
yes. And I could, as the project unfolded, I got to know some of the women through their words, not just their words in the poems, but their words of support for other people
Hmm.
in the project. And it was just kind of, people would step in and step up, and but at the same time they were dealing with things in their lives that were, heartaches and struggles, and still people kept on, you know giving of themselves. And I really do feel strongly it is giving of yourself, and it's also bearing yourself, and criticism can come.
It can come, and but at the same time, it's, as you say, it's a burden, and it's letting it out, but it's also expanding the energy,
Mm,
and uplifting it. And the criticism sometimes are from people who don't or haven't gotten quite to that level of
mm,
understanding, or still in that state of not quite understanding the freedom that's available,
yes, I agree.
and the power of words. Sometimes in criticism, it's like I really get a lot of the criticism is more out of fear, than
Mm-hmm.
out of truly understanding what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's always the contrast that we need to appreciate exactly where we truly are.
Yes, I agree with that. And where we truly are at one moment, it's like a snapshot of your life. Because if I go back and look at a poem that I wrote 10 years ago, sometimes I can remember that very vividly. And other times I go, boy, it's as if I didn't write that. It speaks to me, but those words were from that Julia. And that's so cool. That's so interesting to me.
Hmm.
How that happens, how you have these snapshots through your life if you've kept your poetry, or if you listen to poetry throughout your life, other people's poetry, and what speaks to you then and what speaks to you now. But it feels like it's going somewhere for me. It feels like it really is the journey. So that word journey, wow, that was that was a very important part of the title, I think. And it was a journey, the whole production of the book and writing the poems, and it was all just such a huge, valuable journey too.
And and the journey continues, and the women involved were so grateful for the opportunity to be part of this. And it's all like, to me, these are women who are going to be, and I do include you in this, these are like the masters that are going to be remembered down the line, like the Emily Dickinsons, or
Mm-hmm.
even, or Mountain Dancer. I mean, it's all these, the women that are expressing themselves. And I really get that a lot of these women are almost like bringing up the women of the past through a new generation and a
Mm.
new vision of the same kind of situations. It's just a different perspective.
Yeah, and that is poetry too. Like you said, if two people stood beside a painting and looked at it, they would see different things.
Hmm.
And when two people hear a poem, different parts speak to them. Um, it's unimaginable how that taps into your soul and feeds your soul, I think.
It really does. Um, so, who are some of your, since I was speaking of women of the past, who are some of the poets that you enjoy?
Well, you mentioned Emily Dickinson, so I guess she's at the top of my list. I would love to be able to write the expressions in each line and almost in each word that she encompasses. But also the more modern Mary Oliver. I think many people have read her work and know of her. Um, I love her heartfelt and sincere putting it out on the page. I really love that.
She is amazing. There's just, you know, the voices of women are becoming more prevalent and stronger, and almost like a whole nother level of power that's coming out there. It's like the goddess energy really is being reborn
Very true.
all over again.
Hmm.
I've had a few of my poems on Rebel Society, and that's one reason why I became about it with them, is because they really focus on being the rebel within the cause of bringing out femininity and the goddess energy,
Hmm.
and making sure that it really is present in how to work day to day, as a mother, as a sister, as a daughter, as a woman in today's environment, and how it is so different
Very.
than it has been even from it started really in the 1960s and has slowly grown. I think part of it got repressed during the 80s and part of the 90s, but it's like it was just building up to this giant explosion that we're having now.
I totally think that you're right about that, and also that it's just it's almost like you can't keep that voice silent. Society is trying to do that. Perhaps a male-dominated society is trying to do that, but it just breaks through. It breaks through those prison bars, and is bursting forth. If you look for it, it's everywhere, and that woman energy is so powerful.
So, where do you see for yourself, where do you see your poetry going or taking you?
Well, I am continuing to sharpen the sword of my words, and I would like to be a published poet. I am a published poet now through this book, but I just see the path. The thrill for me is when other people say, "Wow, that did really resonate with me," or that brought me to tears, or you know, there was a quote from my mom. My sister is a singer-songwriter, and so I feel like songs are poems.
Oh, yes.
And she said, "Why my songs make my mother cry? And why does my poem move someone in a way that I didn't even perceive would be possible?" So I think publishing a work would be the next step for me. I really do.
So, do you have another poem that you could read of your work?
Sure. All right. And this one is perhaps not so dark. But it was very much coming from my heart. This is entitled Love. Oh, tell me what you think of it. I think wide ocean deep. I think of mountain heights so dizzy and nights of losing sleep. I think of desert thirsting and searing heat of noon, the freezing burn of ice, the roasting sun of June. Ongoing as eternity, as tireless as the tide, or brief as one short moment, how can both abide? I think of hearts a-bending and cracking into two. I think of souls some melting like frost on grass, or dew on violets, or roses that bud then open wide, their inmost secrets spilt out with nothing left to hide, or longing, painful ending with wounds that remain hidden, of yearning, burning, aching, desiring fruit forbidden. I think of joyous dawning rising up from boundless seas, of floating boats of happiness, a wafting soft breeze. So tell me what you think of it. I think the blaze of sun and solace of the sweet midnight when two become as one.
Wow. Very powerful.
Thank you.
Very powerful. So, we're almost coming to the end of the time of this very short um, talk about poetry. I hope you'll come on again. But again, I just wanted to let people know that where journeys meet, the voice of women's poetry, it is available on Amazon. If you would like to get a copy. And remember, it does go to a nonprofit called Right Girl, which is all the promotion of creativity and really self-empowerment of girls. Um, I myself have one poem also included, and it is called As the Movement of Moment. As the movement and rhythms of moments dance, the breath and ease of beauty within, grace the heart's everlasting splendor, feeling and experience the fullness of life, embracing it all, dear child of love. Know that it is all real, and still the illusion of your imagination go wild, fully present in essence of mind, wild and wondrous, O dance, child, with the music in your heart and the universal orchestra is here and fully charmed. Move in the breath and the grace that you are. Be fully present and know who you are. Brilliance, magical, and everything else. Dance with the essence out of mind. Embrace yourself in love and all be divine.
Okay, tears are brimming.
Um, and I, it is one of those things that I feel is not a message for me, but for all women. And that's why I really wanted to read it. It is live fully and embrace this wonderful dance of creation that we're all creating right now. It is truly a time of expressing our power and being empowered by those words and the support of women and all people. Humanity is really at a critical moment, and it is time for us to really find those communities that support us. So, Julia, it is a great honor to have you on the show and to share your poetry and part of this movement. And I hope you continue to write and you do publish your own book of poems and get it out there and express yourself.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I think that this is part of the process in creating that. So thank you so much. And my heart is very full right now. So I, I, I love that feeling.
And I love you for being on. And again, we will have Catherine Gush on another time. One more time, the book is Where Journeys Meet, The Voice of Women's Poetry. And it is a wonderful collaboration, and I truly am honored, like Julia, to be a part of this journey and this project. So until then, this is Jennifer Hillman saying thank you so much for listening to AIR,